In video games, Tuesday is usually a day for announcements or releases, and boy, did Blizzard have both. And one of them is more noteworthy than the other. And that announcement is Blizzard announced that the PvE for Overwatch 2, the PvE that the number 2 in Overwatch was contingent on, the number 2 that designated a separation from the original Overwatch, the 2 that is the reason the original Overwatch was completely eliminated. That PvE content is canceled. So Blizzard did an interview with GameSpot's Timur Hussein, and to their credit, Blizzard was way more candid than I thought they would be, and almost maybe more candid than they should have been. But the meat of this interview explains why they canceled it. And Timur asked some great question, but whoa, it sounded bad. In so many words, they basically said they realized the project was too big. Monolithic was kind of a word that they used. And it required too many people to continue to put out good PvP live service at the same time. So they decided to just get rid of it. Guess when they knew when they were going to cancel it? Shortly before they launched Overwatch 2. They had already known that they were going to cancel PvE. So they knew PvE was dead before we even got the game. But they couldn't take off the 2 or do anything like that because it would raise suspicions, right? So then we still weren't getting a crazy amount of content within Overwatch 2, and then their updates seemed pretty distracted in hindsight, actually. Now we know why. They were figuring out how to shift into delivering more stuff per season because that's the model they were shifting to, which they detailed in their little content update and their roadmap. I don't want to make this over dramatic because we're talking about video games, but this feels like a gut punch. I was really looking forward to this PvE, and I love Overwatch PvP. That's the main reason why I play it, but I was really looking forward to the PvE, and I know a lot of you were too. I'm not sure there's anybody who's looking at this and going, oh yeah, it's fine. This is PvE, whatever. Who cares? No, I think everybody, and I'm not exact, I mean like 100% of people out there were like, yo, we're not getting PvE? This is ridiculous. Like, I don't care what anyone says. This is the worst okie doke in video game history. They showed this mode to us. They talked about it ad nauseum. They gave us a whole detail package about the skill points and the trees and different abilities and how, all the characters would be able to do different things and how you'd be able to upgrade them and all this other stuff. They even let people play it at BlizzCon. And then they just cancel it. Crazy. This is nuts. And I know why they did this. Like, I'm aware of the different issues live service games have and the type of difficulties developers go through when it comes to developing a live service game. This isn't hard to figure out. Look at the timing. The timing of all of this is to save as much face as possible. If they would have announced this before they knew how they were going to transition no PvE into all this content that they were talking about, into this roadmap, I mean, that would have been straight up just a business disaster. Like, at the end of all of this, after all the disappointment we feel, after all the anger and whatnot, people are still going to play Overwatch 2 because there's still stuff to look forward to. But imagine if they would have canceled it and then be like, hey guys, we're working on the fix for this. We're working on, oh my God, that would have been a disaster. Absolute disaster. They had to wait to announce this until they had something to give us for the future, a roadmap for the future. Anything less than that would have been absolute destruction of Overwatch, the live service, all of it. Like, it literally would have imploded Overwatch. But man, it feels like deception. It really does. Like, I don't blame anyone for running with that narrative because that's what it absolutely looks like. It absolutely looks like they deceived us. I don't think it is. Again, you don't announce this before Overwatch 2 launches or before you have a game plan for the future of Overwatch. You have to give people a future. They did that, but wow, they effed this up real bad. This is what I don't get about developers at this point, especially ones for live service games. Just release it when it's ready, right? Pick a lane and stick with it. And hear me out. This isn't the typical like, oh, Star Wars Jedi Survivor was buggy. Just release it when it's ready. Redfall, just release it when it's ready. That's not necessarily what I mean when I'm talking about just release it when it's ready. These development stories are more complicated than just spend a bunch of money paying people infinitely until it's finally done. Like that's not this. It's just not that simple. But this was a case of Team 4 shouldn't have released Overwatch 2 until the campaign stuff was over, like until it was done. If Overwatch was on the way out because they weren't doing all these content updates, because they were working on the PvE stuff, because that's what they were focused on, they should have just chosen that path. That's the lane they should have chosen. All hands are on deck working on the PvE. And then when it's ready, it's the great revival of Overwatch. But they wanted to keep the live service going. They tried to do both things, and that clearly was never going to work. And that's the reality of live service at this point. You know why Fortnite is still going strong? Because it's focus. Same with Apex. Heck, look at Rainbow Six Siege. Like, it started bad, and then they fixed it, and then now they're sticking with it. This is what Rainbow Six Siege is. We're not moving off of that. When a live service is focused, it tends to do better. If Knockout City started to deviate from what it was, it wouldn't have lasted as long as it did. So, in reality, and unfortunately, the best decision for Overwatch was to bring it back to simply a live service PvP game with PvE events. Team 4 said it in the interview. They went from 6 events per season in Overwatch 1 to 3 events per season in Overwatch 2. That's unacceptable. And we felt that. We could feel the difference. There was something missing there. But we tolerated it because we figured, even if subconsciously, like you knew they were working on PvE, but that wasn't even the case. Apparently they had abandoned it. So, they were working on, I guess instead they were working on how to put together a new seasonal model. But as painful and annoying and frustrating as this is the best decision for the future of Overwatch. Well, okay, actually, I take that. I take that back a little bit. I think the best decision would be to put all hands on deck with the PvE and let Overwatch 1 die until Overwatch 2 was ready to be resurrected. I think that would have been the best decision because, yes, they may have not been making money while Overwatch 1 was dead, but you look to the future, it's not like they didn't have no money. They were profiting. Them loot boxes put them way far ahead of what they needed to do. And so, I don't have facts and figures for that, but you can imagine, dear God, we were overpaying with the loot boxes. People buying loot boxes, we were definitely overpaying for everything. If you look at what the battle pass stuff is, yes, the skins are expensive, but that's because that's what they're worth in terms of, look at the rest of the battle pass store markets and things like this mess. All these legendary stuff, it's expensive. So then you look at what we were paying for the loot boxes. Yeah, we were way overpaying for this stuff. Absolutely. For the chance to get something. So they had enough money to be able to sit for a little bit, figure out the story. All hands are on deck. Would it have still taken a while? Yes. But it would have taken as long. But they didn't pick a lane. So I don't think this will be the last time we see something like this out of any live service. Part of a live service is you have to sell people on things. That's why they told us at BlizzCon, like, hey, this is what we're doing, guys. Look at the future of Overwatch. We're not just sitting here letting Overwatch 1 die. No, we're doing stuff. Now, we've seen that's already happened with Halo Infinite, 343 set out to do some things with a few early seasons, and then that stuff had to be delayed into a different season. Why? Because game development can rarely be put on a super strict schedule until all the systems are in place. And clearly Team 4 didn't have that sorted out. They had no clue how big the scope was until they were working on it. So if this happened to Overwatch, which was pretty established, but then they started to work on something else or announce something that happened and then it didn't work out, this is not going to be the last time this happens. And again, it already happened before Overwatch with Halo Infinite. And that's the thing. This is a creative industry. This isn't like just numbers and formulas. This is creativity. This is art. This is how to appeal to an audience. That's how creativity works. If you've ever written a paper or a piece of art or you wrote music or something, what you started may not be what you end with. It may turn out you write an article and it turns out to be completely different. That's game development all the time, except you have deadlines and the scope is so much bigger and hard to turn around. Other arts is like turning a car around. Maybe you need a 3-point turn, but game development is like turning a boat. It's much harder to shift ideas that end up not working out and then trying to rework those things into something that does work. And it sounded like there was a combination of that and not enough resources. And now we're here. But I think Team 4 would have figured that out earlier if they put more resources into the project, but they didn't. So this is where we're at. I don't know. I'm looking forward to season 6. It's fine, but this is a gut punch, and that's just what it's going to have to be for now. How do you feel about all this? You know where to comment. Tap whatever thumb you like and subscribe for more conversations on the latest video games and news.